Welcome to Reddit After Hours. This is r/TrueOffMyChest, where OP's husband is willing to risk it all for his work wife. Our first Reddit post comes from Honeybell Mama, titled, "My husband doesn't see how his quote work wife is trying to destroy our marriage." So, before I even talked to my husband about this, I decided to do some investigation. I started with his phone and read all the messages between him and Sarah. She badmouthed me a few times to him, and he did nothing to defend me, but he also didn't engage with the bad talk either. She was flirty, but he wasn't really flirting back. They talked a lot, and he praised her frequently for her work ethic and her intelligence. I didn't see anything about cheating in there. I checked his email, and still nothing. I checked his work email, and still nothing. I looked through our other devices and still nothing. I searched high and low for a second phone, but still nothing. Everything that I found was always dancing that line. Nothing was outright cheating, but here are a few things that I found that did hurt my feelings. He has lunch with her at the office and only her every single day. They don't really like anyone else, so they'll criticize others and say, "Let's talk more about it at lunch. They're serving XYZ today." He'd say things like, "I'm sure if you were a wife, you would XYZ. He always kept it as a wife and not my wife, but still, this upset me. She admitted to breaking the mug that I gave him on purpose. He didn't get upset with her, though. He just said, "Yeah, the photo gifts are kind of corny." I confronted him on this and I laid it all out. And while he wasn't upset with me, he did try to brush things off. He said I was being too sensitive and overreacting. I told him if we didn't have a real conversation about this, that I would file for divorce. This got his attention, and he finally sat down with me. He admitted that at first he found it odd that Sarah was trying so hard. He actually saw her trying hard with all the men in the office. The more attention that she gave him, though, the more he enjoyed it. The more he responded, the more attention she gave, until she just had her sights set on him. He knew some of the other men in the office were envious, and he liked that too. He admitted that eventually he just got in too deep. He said that he knew it was wrong, but that he had gotten addicted to the attention and didn't want her to move on to another man. So he indulged her sometimes at my expense. He said it was just nice to have two women in the two major parts of his life, stating that he knew we'd rarely see one another, so what was the harm? He reiterated that he never ever physically cheated with her, but admitted that it could be called an emotional affair. This was all so painful to hear, and I won't hide that. I mean, really painful. Like, I wasn't enough. I told him that from this point on, he needed to stop communicating with Sarah and asked to be transferred to another department, or he had to switch jobs altogether. Now, folks, I mean this when I tell you that he absolutely lost his mind. He began raising his voice, saying things like he never cheated, it was all above board, and I couldn't control who he talked with at work. He called me a narcissist and a control freak. He told me I had no idea how hard it was, how much stress he had in the office, and that his personal relationship with Sarah helps a lot. Taking it away would just damage his mental health further. It got so bad that I actually started crying. I couldn't take it anymore, and I decided to leave. I packed a small bag, and I called my mother-in-law. She's the only other family that I have here. I gave her a rundown of what's going on, and she offered her home to me. I'm staying here and just hoping that my husband calms down so we can revisit this. I want to work it out. I love him more than anything. OP, given his reaction, I absolutely do not believe that everything was above board. Just because you couldn't find anything doesn't mean that there actually isn't something going on. And even if we do give him the benefit of the doubt that it was above board, saying to your wife that you can't imagine your work wife moving on to another man is an absolutely crazy thing to tell your partner. An emotional affair is still an affair. OP, this guy is one step away from leaving you anyway, and seeing as he's already cheating on you emotionally with someone else, I would preemptively leave him myself if I was you. His behavior is disgusting, and this whole concept of a work wife has always kind of blown my mind. Like, I would never ever even think to go home and say, "Oh, hey baby, guess what my work wife told me today?" Like, I think I would get stabbed instantly. Our next Reddit post comes from Complex Ice 9936, titled My wife of 22 years, partner of 25, came out as lesbian and she's known since college. My wife, who's 42, Emily, and I, who's also 42, have been together since freshman year, but we didn't make it official until our senior year. We were high school sweethearts, and ever since our awkward unofficial stage, people have always told us that we're the perfect couple. We never truly had a fight, and we've only had arguments of different sizes that we've always ended positively. We ended up going to the same college and moved in together in the city on the other side of the country. We got similar jobs, bought a house, and had 2 boys and a girl. From my perspective, we've always been close. Our love has always been true and passionate, and our lives were made to be with each other. But apparently, all these years have been a lie. Last night, when I arrived home from an exhausting shift, Emily sat down and told me that we had to talk. She proceeded to tell me how she's been a lesbian and that she's known since college and that she's gone on multiple dates with many other women over our entire marriage. She justified herself, saying that her family would have never accepted her and that she never actually cheated on me because she was being her true self with a woman that she slept with. And to end it all, that she wanted us to have a, quote, lavender marriage so that she could be herself with her parents who thought that she was a straight woman with a loving nuclear family. I honestly don't remember much after that. The news hit me like a truck and made a wreck of my emotions. I've never been emotionally mature, and I've always been kind of a closed off person. And in really emotionally intense moments, I tend to shut down and force myself to not feel it all. I woke up this morning in a random mall parking lot in my car with 20 plus missed calls from Emily and about 100 texts from her and some from my oldest son. I don't know what to do now. I don't know how to act. How do I process this heartbreaking news? I feel like I've lost all direction and stability in my life, and that my entire adult life was founded on a lie. None of the words of love that she showered me with were true. The nights of passion were an act. Our family is the product of a lie. I'm not happy for her, and I'm not proud of her or anything like that. If anything, I feel pure rage towards her. I need advice. OP, this might sound a little overboard to some people, but if I were you, I would 100% divorce her, and I would tell everyone in her life, her parents, everyone, exactly why you're divorcing her. Stringing you along emotionally like that for your entire marriage is terrible. And don't get me wrong, just because she was doing it with another woman, it doesn't matter. Cheating is still cheating. She said that she's slept with multiple women over the years of your marriage, but that none of it counts because she was, quote, just being her true self. Would anyone accept that as an excuse if my wife came to me and said, hey, I noticed you've been sleeping with 30 different women. What the hell is that about? Oh, baby, I'm just, a serial woman lover. I'm just being my true self. It doesn't count. Like, no, that's an absurd, insane thing for her to say to you. Cheating is still cheating. OP, I'm so sorry for the situation you're in. No one deserves that type of heartbreak and manipulation in their marriage. But if I were you, obviously, there's no coming back from this. I would leave her, and I would make it a point to tell people why you're leaving her. Our next Reddit post comes from Deleted, titled, My daughter decided to go no contact, and I'm finally okay with it. My daughter, who's 36 now, has BPD, or borderline personality disorder. For those of you who don't know what it is, Oren Taraban on YouTube has the best explanation of it. I've been dealing with lies, manipulation tactics, and psychotic episodes for the last 20 plus years, just trying to make her realize that she was loved. I left relationships to move to be close to her and help her when she got bad. After she turned 18, I had no control over her mental health visits or her medication. I feel like I've been held hostage for the last 20 years. Her dad also has it, so together they can make anyone contemplate unaliving themselves. I'm not making this up or adding for dramatic flair either. In an effort to be a good parent, I overlooked her siblings because she required more attention when she would crash out. She's called CPS on me multiple times and wrote the most poisonous things about me on social media, causing friendships to end because they believed her. She's in her late 30s now and recently crashed out again, but this time it's her last. I warned her that if she posted lies about me again, she would reap what she sowed. 2 months ago, she did just that. Her sibling and I decided to hold a fake funeral for her. We cried, said things about her that made us smile, and now I've sold everything and we are moving out of state. I've changed my phone number and I'm deactivating all of my social media for a while. So this is my confession. I am happy. I'm looking forward to no longer suffering from the stress and the PTSD that this relationship has caused both her sibling and I. It's okay to suffer mental illness. We're not perfect beings and no one is perfect. But it is not okay to be a garbage person and blame it on your mental state and expect everyone to forgive you. For those who are asking, I left and divorced her dad when she was 11, but you know very well that the courts give visitation to the other parent. We did try therapy, but she was misdiagnosed with something else and then at 15 diagnosed with BPD. I had no idea there was even such a thing as BPD, what its causes were, its factors, or anything like that. That was on me. There was no information on this until about 5 to 10 years ago, or so at least that I can recall. For those of you with children who have it, fight until you have no fight left in you. My other child doesn't have it, but had suffered at the hands of their sibling, and it is what it is. That's a very sad position to be in, OP. I'm sorry you had to go through all that. It sounds like you tried to do everything that you could, but at the end of the day, you can only do so much. She is an adult, and she's going to decide whether she wants to get better, take her meds, and all of that. So it sucks, OP, but kind of like you said, it is what it is. Our next Reddit post is from Delara04, titled, "My boyfriend uses me as a trophy." I have always been into gaming, not in the casual pickups Animal Crossing way, no hate to those people, and I love that game. But like, I grew up on MMOs. I actually built my own PC, and I know my way around a Souls-like game. I met my boyfriend, a 27-year-old male, about a year and a half ago on Discord. We hit it off fast. He seemed so impressed with me, and he constantly said things like, "You are so rare." An actual girl who's good at games. He called me his, quote, gamer queen all the time, and I used to think that it was cute. But over time, it started to feel weird, like he'd push me to say hi in his gaming group chats even when I didn't feel like it. He'd encourage me to post my setups or gameplay clips, but he'd always attach comments like, quote, "My girl's hotter and better than any of you." He started joking about how he, quote, upgraded because his ex didn't game. At first, I thought he was just proud of me, but it started to feel less like he loved me and more like he loved the idea of owning me as a, quote, gamer girlfriend. It got worse when he made a TikTok showing me off without my permission. He filmed me playing Elden Ring from behind and captioned it like, quote, "POV, you bagged a baddie who can parry." It got a bunch of likes and his friends were hyping him up. But all I felt was humiliated. Am I overreacting? OP, I don't think you're overreacting, but who knows? Maybe you just need to have a conversation with him and see if, maybe he's just kind of going overboard with all this and doesn't realize this. Maybe he really does care about you. He just doesn't realize the extreme that he's taking this to. In any case, OP, I would just try to have that conversation with him before making any drastic moves if you really do like him. But make no mistake, you're entitled to how you feel, and I don't think you're overreacting here. But filming you without your permission is still kind of weird and borderline a violation of your privacy by posting you without your knowledge and your consent. I would definitely have a conversation with him about that because that's kind of not okay. He should be telling you if he's going to post you online. Our next Reddit post is from Bug Like a Fox, titled, "I pretended to be upset when my parents got divorced and it ruined all of our lives." When I was a kid, I didn't understand my emotions very much. I used to copy TV a lot, actually. Like, I would cry when I thought I was supposed to cry based on what TV had taught me. I did this because I didn't understand how I was expected to feel, if that makes sense. My parents always had a troublesome relationship. They got divorced for the first time when I was 11 years old. It was one of those moments for me, and I just started crying, bawling, saying that I wanted my daddy to stay and stuff like that. Although I remember not feeling it in that moment, I just thought that was how a kid was supposed to react. Even though in my heart, I really didn't care. I didn't have any malicious intent, I was just stupid, you know? My mom had trauma from when her parents got divorced when she was a kid. Their separation put a lot of strain on her because her father would often punish her by not allowing her to see her mom for some time. She always told us about how difficult it was for her. So after that situation, she got emotional and she went back to him for me because I pretended to be sad when I wasn't. Immediately after that, they decided to move abroad to America. Then began the worst 2 years of our lives. They fought all the time. They broke stuff, they hit each other, they threatened to unalive themselves all the time. My sister and I would wake up to screams almost every single night. We dreaded car rides with them. Our financial situation was honestly horrible. My father was making terrible money related decisions. And then he cheated on my mom again. We were evicted from our apartment, and my mom was now stick thin from how little she was eating. It was horrible. Eventually, we went back home because it was so unbearable, but we returned completely broken and completely changed. Then they divorced the second time when we got back, and then they got back together again. And then, of course, my father cheated again, and more fights happened. And then they divorced for the final time when I was 17. My mother always tells me that she went back to him because of me, because I cried all those years ago, because she was scared to put us through the same thing that she went through. I'm sure that every single time she went back to him, that moment replayed in her mind of me crying, begging her to stay. And it was all a stupid lie. We were all still suffering the consequences of those 2 years abroad. I still get shaken when people yell around me. I still get nauseous when I think about California. All because I pretended to be upset over something that I didn't even care about. OP, I can definitely understand why in your head you think it's your fault, but I can promise you it's not your fault. Like you said earlier in your post, you didn't have any malicious intent, you were just a stupid kid. Kids do a lot of crazy things at that age. However, it's on the parents to know that a relationship is toxic and that for the betterment of the kids to not go back to the relationship. You didn't force your mom to go back into the relationship. I understand your mom's trauma and I understand why she may have thought that that was best for you. And, I'm sure your mom didn't have any malicious intent either. I'm sure she was just acting based on all her trauma and that's stuff that she has to get help with on her own. But make no mistake, OP, it's not your fault. You were just a kid. They were the adults. They should have separated for the betterment of you guys. Our next Reddit post is from GloomyFilm6183, titled, "My sister died because of me and it's her birthday today." When I was 9, I had a little sister who was 6 years old. We were in the front yard and my parents, as always, weren't at the house. My dad was off drinking and my mom was probably sleeping around with other people. It was me, my older brother, and my little sister. I was supposed to be watching my sister because my brother ran inside to get his phone. I don't remember much from the event, but my sister went into the street and got hit by a car because I was distracted and I wasn't watching her. She was in the ICU for a few days, but she didn't make it. I remember my mom blaming me and my brother for it, and eventually she kicked us out when I was 12 and when he was 15. I know that this was my fault, and I haven't told anyone I know about it because I don't want them to see me differently. My brother ended up getting shot a year ago, and I miss him too. It's my sister's birthday today, and I remember back when we would all three get together for it and celebrate on our own. My parents were abusive and always away from the house, so we really only had each other. It feels wrong to be the only sibling to still be alive, especially when I could have prevented my sister's death. My brother's birthday was a month ago, and it doesn't feel right that they're gone. I tried going to therapy and using distractions to cope with it all, but nothing's working. I just want my family back. That is probably one of the saddest situations I've read in a while. OP, it is absolutely not your fault that this happened, and I hope you can come to understand that one day. Your parents sound like incredibly awful people who had no business having kids or having the responsibility of taking care of kids, if that's what you can even call what they ever did for you guys. You were only 9 years old. You can't be expected to be watching a 6-year-old. And the fact that your parents blamed you and kicked you guys out of the house is absolutely insane. These parents have to be some of the worst people that I've ever read about. That's so sad, OP. I hope you find peace one day. I'm honestly surprised that your parents didn't end up in prison for some type of neglect and that you guys didn't end up getting taken away from them before they had the chance to kick you guys out years later. That was Reddit After Hours, bringing you r/TrueOffMyChest. Thank you all so much for listening, and if you like these stories, like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below for any future Reddit subs you'd like us to cover in the future, as we post new Reddit videos almost every single day.